All right, you legends. I don't know if you guys can even see us. But let's turn this thing on here. So this light, maybe we'll see a little bit, and then we'll have to wait till the light comes up.
On this ride, Paul and I left Northampton. We decided to do our own thing. At this point, we hadn't decided what route we would do. We rolled past the woodlands after going through Sterling Ridge, went 1488 west. Once we got past Mount Magnolia, we turned on the camera past Karen there, took 149. Once we got into Keenan, we decided that we would go to the lake area via Montgomery. So we took 1097, we crossed the lake, we filmed all of that. We stopped at the boathouse there at the lake, and then we continued, took the back route through that little neighborhood that we had gone through to 105, and took 105 back to Navajo. Took Navajo, we started to film there in Honier on Fish Creek, back into the wind. There was a little wreck there with a motorcycle. I mean, we hope the guy's okay, but we just saw the motorcycle and the car that it appeared had cut in front of him. So I think you all enjoy the clips we got for you.
Legends, from 149, headed north.
It's a nice morning. We decided to break out a new combination of our kit. Both of our wearing the same kit today. One of the Rafa Pro Team jerseys with the mustard band. So the goal for this ride was primarily Zone 2. So having a smaller group allows you to control the dynamics of your ride. So sometimes it's good to just either go out by yourself or go out with your mate and avoid the larger groups. You eliminate all the drama and all the other stuff that comes with group rides. So it was a very, very nice change this week. So when we ride, besides what you see on film, I'll pull for a while, then Paul will come through, take a pull, and we kind of decide what kind of pace we want to hold. And then sometimes Paul will stay further back so he can work a little harder. But once we start to go a little harder, sometimes then he gets closer. So that's the same thing you need to try to do in your rides. You can decide what kind of effort you want to keep. But we use this as a good conditioning ride. It's a fairly busy farm to market road here, but it doesn't have a high volume of traffic. The speeds of the other road users are higher, but I prefer roads like these than the ones in my neighborhood where you got people passing you every second. I like being out of town. You go for so many kilometers before you have an intersection, so you get a higher exercise potential. So you guys will see that part of this ride, the power meter conked out. That's the thing with electronics. That's another reason why you don't want to depend on them too much. You have to learn how to ride by feel, primarily, really, because those things are just giving you feedback. So I think feel is your number one thing to master. I stand here to change the rhythm for a bit. It's a nice long incline. You have to practice that. You should be able to stand without affecting the person behind you. And you should be able to sit without the cessation of your pedaling. We started out when it was dark, so a lot of times I just put sunglasses on the back of my head. That's my preferred place for storing them. I don't like to hook them on the back of the jersey because sometimes the wind can blow them off. And that's an expensive snafu if that happens. So in a few kilometers, we'll come across this gentleman who's backing out a trailer. And so we have to stop for that because all the traffic stops to let him get out of the yard that he's coming out of. He needed the entire road, basically both lanes, to get his trailer out. He was heading south. He's going to be heading south. We're heading north. But the northbound and the southbound lane stopped for him. So you see how effective those little lines on the back of my socks are. Since your legs are moving, that's where you want to have the visibility. And those classic shoes I'm wearing, when light hits them, even sunlight, there are tabs on the back that light up for the other road users. They're very effective. And then they have something on the front that also has that reflective surface on it. All of those things make a difference. And then plus with the light on my bike. So this way you can wear any kind of kit you want. You don't have to be restricted. Who wants to wear chartreuse every day? I mean, so if I'm wearing a dark kit, I tend to lighten up the helmet. You can see my helmet's white so that you get that nice balance. I'm right entering into zone 2 right now. This is where we spot this guy with the flashers on. There's the truck on the left backing out. We'll go ahead and stop. Because his trailer is across the entire road. And he's still backing out, so we didn't want to do something dumb like trying to ride. You can see he even using the shoulder. So it would have been dumb to go ahead and ride on just because we're on the shoulder. Some cyclists do that, and we get a bad reputation for that, for not following the rules of the road. If you want to be out there, you need to adhere to the rules. It just works better for everyone involved. So I use that mirror that's on my bar end to keep track of my riding partner and the other road users. It is very effective. I have gotten so accustomed to using it, it's almost like I feel like I've always had it. I wish I had gotten it a lot earlier because it just works. It has really enhanced my relaxation when I'm out there, more peace of mind, being able to keep tabs on what's happening around me without having to turn my head around all the time like I used to in the past. I still look back sometimes when the conditions require it, but it's not very frequent. You can see me, I'm looking at it when I tilt my head like that. There are cars coming, I'm keeping my eyes on them. I adjust them to where I just look in that direction. I don't have to do anything extra. That point is not for Paul, it's for the other road users. Because Paul knows where we're going. We already discussed this part of the route. We didn't decide to go to the lake until we got into Montgomery. we're going to actually do the forest. And I told him, hey, we did the forest last week. Let's do something different. That's how we do our routes. We don't plan it to the T before we leave. You know, it's okay to be flexible. You get out there and you feel like you want to do something different. It's his time to come up. I pull into the lane after checking, making sure it's clear. You know, legally we can ride where I am, but we're slower moving traffic, so it's a courtesy to use this shoulder. Since the shoulder is safe and it's there, why not? If it weren't, we'd use the road. I'm sure the other road users appreciate it. Some of them are ignorant of the fact that we don't have to be there, but that's just something that's their issue, not ours. So if you have a shoulder, use it. It's just better for everybody. That's part of sharing the road. So having a partner is a big help, because just being behind Paul, I can eat, drink, and relax because it's a significant draft. He's about my height, so he's punching a hole into that wind. So when I'm back there, I get to take a break.
I saw that.
Yep.
Yeah, I did that so I could avoid going over those reflectors. I kind of cut through them. They put those reflectors in this curve because the drivers were running off this road very frequently in that curve. We'd see tire tracks in the grass very often when we'd come out here. They just don't pay attention. You can see tire tracks right there. That's what I'm talking about. They're always running off the road. Can't control their speed, and then they want to be going too fast. You know. The road goes up and we're going into the east wind. This time of year, our wind comes from the south and the east. The southeasterly flow is what gives us these temperatures. I'm keeping the effort right at zone 2. The power meter says 2 something, which is about right as far as being consistent. It's in that is zone 2 area, but I'm not watching that when I ride. I really just ride by feel. I may glance at my heart rate periodically. Depending on what's going on with me, I want to just do reference checks. That's it. I just ride and enjoy being out there. I don't worry about those gadgets. You get home, you can download the stuff, and then you can do your analysis. You see the hill in the distance go up and then it goes left, and for about probably 5 kilometers we're going to be climbing. It's going to be like a mountain climb where you climb, you have a few pitches, then it levels off, it gets flat, and then it continues. So it's just you know, this is kind of consistent. We don't have 20% climbs out here. I think the most we have in this part is like 7 to 9%. But if you use the right gearing, you can replicate that effort. That's what you're doing on that ride. You can go harder. This is more of an enduro ride per se. This is the stuff that builds the deep conditioning you need when you want to take your riding to higher levels.
This is where you said to build the gear. Yep. Yep.
Paul was talking about reference what I say all the time, where I say, work, don't labor. A nice long climb, just very steady. And it's not very far from our area, so it's really good to get a good workout on this. I think that the steepest gradient here is maybe 3% or so, but it's long enough to where if you put it in the proper gear, you can work in whatever zone you choose to. As I'm approaching sweet spot, and I try to keep the effort in zone 2. So I'm exceeding, even I'm outside of the tempo zone. So in a little bit, I'm gonna have Paul come to the front and set the tempo. Because the goal for this ride is just steady effort, steady conditioning. That's what we're going for here today. So just by getting behind him, getting in this draft, my effort is now dropping back to zone 2 instead of sweet spot. That's how significant drafting is, folks. You need to learn how to draft. That allows you to ride with faster riders, especially under steady efforts. I'm not drafting very closely, but still, he's punching a hole in the air. So I'm fighting less wind resistance. Right here, I'll ride up closer. This is how you draft. So I'm staying a little to his left because the wind is coming from the right. We're headed northeast is to our right, and that's where the wind's coming from. So as you ride, the closer you get to a rider, it can reduce your effort, I think upwards close to 30% in certain conditions. So it's not a joke. I mean, you have to take it seriously. especially if you're riding with riders that are faster than you are. You have to use the draft. It helps to ride behind someone who is about your size, because then you don't have to get so low when you follow them. So when you're riding in the group, try to follow people who are about your build, if you can. I'm changing the angle of the camera. That's what I'm working on right there. The way we carry the camera gives us so much more flexibility in getting a variety of views than if you just stuck it on a mount. We have arrived in Canaan. We're not stopping. It's about under 2 hours into the ride. At this point in the ride, we're on 1097. We're outside of Montgomery. We're within about 3 kilometers from the lake. We're headed east into the wind. Once we got to Montgomery, we decided, okay, we're not going to do the forest. Let's do the lake. I was pointing some obstacle to Paul, but the bottle was in my hand. It's mostly those tires that peel the shred off of cars. You don't want to roll over them because they've got wires in them. I guess it's from the radial belt. And those wires can cause a puncture. Some of them are sharp. They're almost like bike cables, like the brake cables if they're shredded. So you don't want to roll over them. And since we're going into the wind, our speeds are lower because of the resistance from the wind and the fact that we want to stay at the same effort. It's gonna go up, speeds are gonna go up because this part of the road descends. See, it says -1, but the effort will remain the same. Same zone. I cannot stress enough how important it is to train to effort. Forget about speed. Speed is a red herring. The conditions give you speed. Effort dictates how hard you're working. So we end up doing between 18 to 22 miles per hour on this stretch into the wind. You can see how the wind is kind of moving my bandana. It was pretty significant. Then when we got on the lake, it increased. For some reason over the water, I guess there's no resistance that much. There's no trees or anything. So over the water, there's just more wind. So you use this kind of training to build aerobic endurance. But depending on the kind of events you do, this should not be the only kind of training you do. If you want to be hammering up hills and sprinting, then you need to work on your anaerobic capacity as well. You can see the lake in the distance there between the trees. We put on mud guards because there's a forecast of rain on this day of the ride. Although the rain did not come until after we were done. But we put it on because when we awakened, the roads were wet. So that kept us clean.
Yeah, nice. Look at that reflection of the sun.
Yeah, we're talking about the water and the glistening of the sun on the lake. We can see that from this stop. So the plan here is to get us to the lake, and then we'll switch position and let Paul pull once we get in the middle of it. And then I'll come back and finish it out. We tried to spread the time we spend at the front even depending on the effort we're doing. And then sometimes I stay there longer because I want to work harder. So it all depends on what's going on with us on that day. I love coming out here. It's just beautiful. I like that they have a nice wide shoulder over this bridge. So you can kind of go across the bridge without impeding the flow of traffic. It's a very, very relaxing cross. The main reason they put such a wide shoulder here is such a long bridge. If a car breaks down, they wanted to make sure they had enough room for the car to pull off and not clog up the bridge. They didn't do it for us. And if it weren't here, we'd be using a road, and they just have to pass on the left, on the other, in the other lane. It turned out to be a very mild day. Temperatures were lower than normal because there is a storm in the Gulf. I think it was a hurricane that actually landed in the Louisiana area the day after this ride. Category 4. So it brought a lot of clouds. Overcast. So Paul comes to the lead here. And from where we're riding, there are people fishing and doing other stuff, and we can see them. They're below the bridge, so the camera doesn't pick them up. But we're sitting higher on the bike, and we can see them. They even greet us as we go by from the water below. Yeah, the wind is pounding us here. So at this point in the ride, I sit in the back, relax a little bit, put it in a higher gear. Don't worry about my cadence because Paul's punching a good hole into the wind. So I'm just kind of rolling along. You get to take a break when you're not in the front. And you need to use that because that helps your group. You get the rest, so when you come to the front, you're fresh. There's the boat on the right there. I didn't think the camera picked it up. Look on the right. They waved at us. I think Paul ends up waving because I'm holding the camera, so I don't wave. Turned it around as he waved. There they are. They're fishing and they waved at us. But when you're sitting in the back, it's the time to take a break. And if you're riding with the right people that keep the pace consistent, then you get the rest. So people that don't keep the pace consistent and act like they're racing and they want to break away, then you decide whether you want to work with them or not. That's what ends up happening. So in a pace line, you need to resist the urge of lifting the pace too much if you want the others to work with you. Because if you lift the pace, it better be sustainable. Those of you who saw the video last week, especially, there were certain people that attacked. I didn't go with them because I knew they couldn't sustain it. So if you're gonna break up the pace and you can't sustain it, that's not very bright. I give Paul the camera, I come to the front, I start to pull because I got to take a nice little rest when he was pulling. But I'm not gonna pull to the point where he's gonna start working so hard. So because I'm at the front, I'm working harder than he is. And then he takes the advantage of being in the draft. So when you ride like that and people enjoy riding with you, those are little bumps that people drop asphalt when they worked on the road, and they're uncomfortable if you go over them in your bike while you're riding the bike. You don't want to go over those bumps. They're like little, they might as well be rocks because it's like a short mound of asphalt. Because we're going into the wind, I keep my cadence up. We're getting to the end of the lake here. The biggest expanse of the lake. Keep the pace steady, as I explained earlier. This allows us to develop a rhythm because this route is at least 6 hours from where we started. So getting off the lake, the wind goes down a little bit. There's a bit of a grade here, so you can see the power goes up a bit. I stay in the same gear. I let my cadence come down slightly. Grade goes down, you can see my cadence went back up. There is a boathouse in a few kilometers that we were going to stop out. It has like a bit of a convenience store there. Nice view on the lake. The size of the shoulder varies out here. Like sometimes it gets really wide and sometimes it's narrow. Before I moved over that white line to the left, I checked my mirror. I moved over because there was a cyclist wheeling their bike on the right there. Give them a little more room. And she waved at us when we went by. Because the wind is so stiff, I go ahead and get in the drops just to change my position. Keep my eye on that light because it's been green for a while to make sure it doesn't change before we're through. Because sometimes, depending on the intersection, especially in town, sometimes as you enter an intersection, your light goes yellow, and some of them are very short. And you can get caught in the middle of the intersection before you've gotten through, and then the other side gets green. In effect, making it look like you ran the light when you actually proceeded before the yellow happened. So I always watch these lights. It felt slower than when we were riding than what I'm looking at on the screen here. It says 30 kilometers an hour. It felt more like 25K. The wind was just pounding us here. My wrist was at an odd angle. That's why I moved it. I'm not sure what happened there. Never had that. Just had a weird feel there. I looked. There's no traffic coming by the other road users, so I get on the lane here because this area here, you see all the bags and stuff over there from that sign, that shoulder is not safe. So I use the road. You have to make that kind of judgment. And we're turning right here for our stop. So we have one stop on this ride, and it was short.
Yeah.
There used to be a light at that intersection, they removed it. And you would hear Paul say, let's stop and refuel and restock.
Yeah.
We'll only stop to load up and go.
Yeah. Let's get something to refuel. Continue.
You heard what he said. We get something to refuel and we continue. All we're doing, we're getting water. If we want any kind of electrolytes, a lot of times we'll get lemonade. There's this brisk lemonade that we like to get from time to time. And he said, yeah, that stretch was very windy.
Yeah, that was good, my brother.
All right, legends, we're wrapping this ride up. We're gonna take Capitol Road. We've been seeking out hills. Today is hills galore.
We're headed south on Raven Chapel Road, approaching Capitol Hill Road. And unknown to me, the power meter had quit. It says 0 watts. I don't notice it until we get to Fish Creek, and you'll see in maybe 10 kilometers or so when I start to recalibrate it.
Car back.
I told him car back because we're about to turn. You see me look back just to make triple sure. But I basically hand him the camera here. This is 4 hours, 52 minutes into the ride. We don't do long stops. We stop long enough to take a health break if necessary, load up our bottles, and go. This is Capitol Hill Road going east. We usually take it going west. It's got a nice climb. You won't get to see power because I did not realize that the power meter was on the fritz here. But irrespective of that, I mean, that'll happen even if you have a power meter. I'm sure you've experienced it. They have their issues. But feel, like I said, is number one. So I keep the effort around zone 2 intentionally, but with a hill, it creeps up probably around zone 3 to like sweet spot. You will see the grade begin to change on the left above where the cyclist in white is pedaling on the graphics. This is a nice long climb. We had done a lot of climbing because we went through an area called Navajo, the road, and there are a lot of little hills there. So my goal here is to keep my cadence above 80. These are arbitrary goals that I set on every climb based on how I'm feeling and what I want to do at the moment. So I find a gear that will keep my cadence up while applying the effort for zone 2. And because it's a hill, it's kind of hard to rein it in because I don't want to slow down. I like this rhythm. So I don't care if it exceeds it because I'm on a climb. But I know I'm going like 2 out of 5. I'm going by the edge of the road because the little bump there I passed, there are little dips, and I didn't want to go through any dips. As we crest the climb, I spot a large truck coming by. So we stay a little to the right to give him more room for him to go by. So by being aware of what the other road users are doing and where they are, you get along better with them because you're not blocking them unnecessarily. You know when to give them extra room, you know where they are. So if you have to use the road, I signal to them to let them know I have to use the lane right now, and they understand.
Go on. Yeah, man.
You know, that was a nice little climb. I'm still not aware the power meter is not working. This is McCaleb Road, which becomes Fish Creek when we go across the overpass in about 1.5 kilometers.
Your food's coming out, my brother. The cracker.
Yeah, he had eaten something and the cracker was just sitting at the top of his pocket. It was about ready to fall.
It was basically out of the pocket. It was sitting at the top.
So I wanted him to catch it before it fell out. So now we're going into the south wind directly, and the wind is coming from the left, which is east, as we head southbound. never got very hot on this day because of the storm that I mentioned as in the Gulf. It just stayed nice and mild. So even though it says 29C, it actually felt like 29C.
Coming
Right
back to
around
fix this road that they didn't fix properly the first time.
80 degrees Fahrenheit.
The pavement is crappy since they opened it. The pavement been falling apart.
So as we approach the overpass, I think this is probably 3%. Yeah, it says 3%. So you want to make sure you keep your effort consistent with whatever range you need to be in. That's a nice shot. That's 28.54. So we go ahead and just get over the overpass. There's a lot of debris that Paul's calling out. I already moved over in the lane. I've already checked. The lane is kind of clear. So I'm staying a little to his left right now. This shoulder here, I don't like to use it on the overpass because there's a sewer grate that's a bit of a dip. They designed it to where it has a dip before you get to the grate itself to allow the water to pool in there. It's on the right. He just went by it. So I don't ride that shoulder. I use the lane whenever I come out here. They're repairing the left side again. Whoever did that overpass, they should be doing it under warranty because they basically did the road and the pavement started falling apart. Those of you who have kept up with our videos, that's the overpass on the other side with all those patches they've been doing. And there's a new piece of pavement, so they finally have a new contractor or another contractor. I hope it's the same guy doing it under warranty because they hadn't been but a few months and the road was just chipping off in pieces. I go ahead and take a gel just to top off my energy stores because we're dealing with the wind here. Paul's probably eating something also, that's why he's so far behind. But because I'm keeping my pace consistent, he can ride at 22, 23 and ride up to me. In a little bit, I'm gonna notice that the power meter doesn't work, and then I'm gonna start messing with it to get the calibration going. It probably went off at the stop. I'm not sure why. Those gadgets. Yeah, I'm messing with the power meter. That's what I'm doing. In a little bit, I would mention that to Paul. He's probably wondering what I'm doing. I'm trying to reset it. Still resetting the power meter over there as we go up this climb. I'm over geared a bit because I'm really concentrating on the power meter. Knowing that he's wondering what I'm doing, I tell him. Told him that I reset the power meter. You can see it calibrating right there. It takes it a minute or so to get it reset. That's why I don't train with all that stuff. Because when they go on the fritz like that, it's a hassle. I want to just ride my bike. So I only put those things on for this group ride for the channel. The rest of the week, they're sitting and collecting dust in a box. I just go in and rock. gets down, I think, to about 100 watts or so, then it starts working. Once it recalibrates, it starts to go back up and it starts to display the actual power. So right about, let's see, 190. Now it's going back up. So now it's correct. They're very finicky. This is, I've got the power pod on this week. So yeah, this is power pod. I didn't have these challenges with the rally power meter. I'm gonna do a 4-month review on it on the channel soon. I didn't have any challenges with it. It's more of the Timex of power meters right now. As I say, you set it and forget it. They just work. The power pod works fine. It's just that it has its glitches, like anything. It's like a computer. So we get the red light here, so I know it's a short light, so I'm gonna do a track stand. I don't know if I have to unclip or not. I may have had to, no I didn't. So it changed. So every time you start from an intersection, depending on who you're riding with, you got to allow time for everybody to get back into the pace line. So when I go like that, I check my mirror to look to see where Paul is and give him a chance to get back into the draft, and then we start to roll. We're going into the wind from the south and from our left. The road is flat here right now. Later in our rides, we go a little harder than earlier. So even though we're in the same zone, because of the terrain being flat, our speeds are up a bit. So I get in a drop, change the position, change the way everything feels, bend my head a little bit, kind of let that wind slide around. If I stand here or not, but the road goes up here. It's a short bump. Yeah, I stand. Okay, so I stay in the same gear. That allows me to keep the speed close, or, you know, the effort about the same. I'm putting out more watts because I'm standing. This is where we spot that there's an issue. We see flashing lights, and we notice that the intersection is completely closed.
Something happened there.
But we notice that the cars are going through the gas station to the right and using that as a detour. So we decide to do the same.
Yeah, man.
I told Paul, see if you can get a picture of it. You can. We can't get really close. But we see a motorcycle on the ground. There's a car sitting on the median, which clearly indicates that somebody turned in front of that motorcycle.
driving a motorcycle in the traffic, he rode on the line, the divider, between the cars.
Yeah, they call that splitting the lanes. We're in traffic and these motorcycles will ride on the line when the cars are stopped. I'm like, if somebody turns to change a lane, bam, it's a collision waiting to happen. And they're riding at speed between the cars. So right here, as we do this detour, we can see a little better. I do a little freeze frame here. That's the motorcycle on the ground there, and that's the car that he hit.
I hope he's okay, man.
That white car over the median there. It appears that that car may have been turning in the path and the motorcyclist was going straight. That's my estimation of it. The motorcyclist is not on the scene. At this point, I think they've already taken him to the hospital. That's what Paul said. He hopes he's okay. I hope he's all right. The officers are reconstructing the scene and doing their investigation. That's why the road is still closed. You can hear the wind. It's a very mild day, lots of wind. So we settle down. I like the wind because it keeps you cooler. You know, it slows the speed down. But we don't do this because we're late for something. So it doesn't matter. I'll take the wind. It was a very comfortable day. Settled into the drops so we can get through this stretch here. We're close to town. So as I ride, I'm constantly keeping my eye on the traffic coming from behind. Because that intersection is closed, there are a lot more cars. All of a sudden, in a little bit, I end up just using the shoulder to let them go by. But once the road's blocked, the people who are going to initially go north are actually going to come south and find another way to get around the blockage. So we end up with a lot of traffic heading south in a bit. You see the watts are up because of that wind. This is where I go ahead and get on the shoulder here. We just have a high volume of cars coming in at this point. I don't know if that's the ambulance that guy's in, the motorcyclist, but you know, more cars have been routed south because of the blockage. So I just stay on the shoulder. once we get through that intersection, you see this nice wide shoulder. This is a new piece of pavement they've added since they built the second bridge southbound. It's made coming through here so much more cycling friendly. In the past, this side of the road was not here, so we used to use the opposite side, the northbound. Was 2 lanes in both directions. The grade is kicking in and the wind. And my goal is just keep the effort consistent here. Because there's a little bump in the distance there. Look at those clouds. Kept the sun at bay on this ride. Very, very nice day. The air actually felt cool on this day. Stand here to get over this bump. I think it gets like 5%. It gets there in a hurry. It's one of those sneaky 5%ers, I call them. They don't look steep, but they are. And then after you get over it, you get a drag into town. It doesn't let up right away. Gravel comes from the rain that washes out of the people's driveway, rainwater. Some of these driveways are not fully paved, so it's bringing the rocks under the shoulder. I don't like to go through that gravel because there's other stuff in there. You never know. So right after those couple of driveways, it's clean, so then get back on the shoulder. And this is a false flat, pretty much most of the way in. Keep the tempo the same. Find a gear that allows me to be consistent in my effort. The road's going to level off right about here, so you want to go ahead and find a gear that allows you to maintain the same rhythm. light in the distance. At this point, I'm watching it. I go ahead and unclip my right foot, just let it rest on the pedal, but then it changed. I snap back in. I went around the debris to the right because there are a lot of cars in the lane, so I just went ahead and went to the right. We usually take the second intersection when we come back into town because we like that area has a quieter route into the woodlands than the first intersection. Most of the groups turn here. We go to the light up here. We have two reasons we do that. It's a controlled intersection, so even if it's busy, you get a turn. And there is an intersection to the right that allows you to do like a right turn and a U-turn, and you can use that light to get through if you're not able to get into the left lane, which will happen today, and it happens frequently. There's so many cars that we don't have enough a break in the traffic, so Paul said, let's take that street to the right. So I tell him, I'm just gonna do the circle so he knows.
That's what I'm talking about.
So now when this light goes red, that means this is green. So I check, make sure nothing's coming, do a U-turn, and take the straight lane, and this is green, and it's protected. Nobody's turning left from the other side. So I hope you got a chance to get your K's in, but this is part of what we did on Saturday. Keep those doctors fired.